Right now, in the bearish markets and sluggish markets, I'm not buying a single coin or token that doesn't have yield.
My name is Alex Fazel. I'm head of communication at SwissBorg, and basically we're a new generation crypto wealth management platform entirely built for the community.
SwissBorg, we are shaping the new era of wealth management.
To your crypto community and blockchain family across the globe, welcome to Cryptonites. So what is Cryptonites trying to achieve? Spread the love. It's come a long way since the last interview.
It's crazy. Like what happened in the past 5 to 6 years, the evolution is just beyond comprehension. Digital infrastructure, like you said, it's inclusion.
Institutions have had access to investment solutions for a very long time, and the average Joe like me wasn't a part of that party.
So just personal disclosure, guys, like I don't put myself at the level of these people, these crypto millionaires, and they're in a completely different league. But I do want to do this because many people have requested me to do something about myself, even though I'm not really the type of guy who always wants to be in the spotlight, on the contrary of what people may think. But, oh, hey, check this out. Look at this. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Halloween. The most amazing and the most important festivity in terms of all seasons to me, because, you know, when you're celebrating Halloween, you can just be anything you want, right? You can be the craziest, scariest, sexiest, dumbest, funnest thing that you want, and it allows people to express themselves. And you know, for me, when I used to live in the US back in the days, we had a very cozy life, you know, that was like upper middle class, the typical American house where you have your little driveway with the basketball hoop and the American flag, you know, all around on every single house because of the patriotism and stuff like that. And, you know, most of the coolest stories is always the story that starts from rags to riches, right? Or something like being a nobody and then becoming a somebody, whatever that means. But our story, I guess, with my brother and I was quite different. You know, it was more like we kicked off very comfortable and then we went to the rags. We went to a level that was really tough. You know, it was really tough for us. You know, when you're used to a certain level of life and standard, and instead of starting with something that you've never had, when you lose something like that, it's very, very difficult. And you know, having that transition was a bit of a rough time in our lives. And you know, I remember going from that cozy lifestyle of the American dream to a life where we're living alone with my mom, the most amazing woman in the world. She's my love, my heart, my everything. She took care of us. Didn't have a job for over 15 years and had to jump straight back into it just to provide food and shelter for my brother and I. And luckily we had family that helped us out, or else we would have been literally on the streets. So it was really tough. The transition was really tough. My upbringing was not that great either. You know, actually, I was really, after that, all the struggles, you know, I had massive problems in my life. I was a complete failure, a complete mess. I struggled at school. I went to the worst high school in the south of France called Saint-Vincent-de-Paul because I had that rebellious attitude, and I was just really frustrated to have to see my mom work 7 days a week, come home really late, always exhausted, and me as a young person, not just being an older brother to my brother, but also having to play the role of a father, which I didn't know how to, because I didn't have the right example. And, but I guess, you know, the beauty of all this is, you know, you can go as low as possible. And I really think that the mindset that we all need to have is the growth mindset. And we just actually walked by a sign called chameleon earlier. And I always thought that the chameleon is the coolest animal of all, because you not only have to adapt to people, you have to adapt to environments, and you have to adapt to unexpected situations. And yeah, that's what I like to be, I guess. You know, the summary is, I hope to be a chameleon for the rest of my life.
Even though you don't feel confident, it's important to look confident.
What? Mr. Bias is back? Oh my God, what's wrong? I thought we got rid of him earlier. He's back with, I think we should. I? Oh my God, all right. What are we gonna do to take care of this guy? We don't want all this stuff, right? Let me show you something cool. Look at this. Bah, bah, bah. Like that? Yeah.
That one? Okay.
I don't look there though.
Unless you want to do an owl.
I'm gonna make funny faces during the whole thing. Like. Transitioning to success. Now, although I said earlier, I don't consider myself as a successful person, this is something that I've seen across multiple people that I've met have achieved incredible things in their life. And I remember very clearly, one night I was at a shisha parlor, actually in Shibuya, Tokyo, with one of my really dear friends, someone that I really respect, Naz Nazir, shout out to him. And we were talking about ourselves and how to improve ourselves. And, you know, as I said earlier, guys, you know, for me, my entire life was always nurture, not nature. I had to learn things. I had to try hard. Nothing came naturally to me, unfortunately. But I remember this discussion. We were laying down on a sofa, pretty similar to this, very comfortable. And my dear friend said, have you ever read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? And I said, no, and what is it about? And he says, like, is it just about becoming rich in terms of monetary, in terms of money that we're talking about earlier? And it was, no, it was the mindset. It was not just wealth. And what does rich mean? And to me, it's more than money. It's happiness, it's well-being, and, you know, enjoying your life, because time is the most scarce commodity. I mean, you can always lose money, but make it back, but you cannot earn back time. And long story short, I read the book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's all about setting goals, about writing down your goals and visualizing these goals and seeing yourself go through obstacles and picturing that. And it's an incredible book. I mean, the most highly recommended books and all self-help books and all success business-related books, because it teaches you on how to reboot your mind like a CPU, like completely reboot your subconscious mind. And it's directly connected to the law of attraction, right? So this is how it worked. This is one of the only kind of quote unquote success stories that I have personally. And it was related to my brother, right? So I grew up with my brother. We grew up with a single mother, as I was saying earlier. And my brother was in finance. He was always like a rebellious type and always had, you know, kind of really visionary ideas. There's one thing that he always had that inspired me as an elder brother, is my brother always had a vision. Like, he always saw things before they came. And I really think that's his superpower. You know, if this is Cryptonites, he doesn't have laser beams coming from the eyes. He doesn't have a chest. He can't break through cement or anything like that, but he has that eye, he has that vision. And my brother, really early first times before SwissBorg, wanted to start a company which was basically a robo-advisory like Charles Schwab. He wanted to offer a robo-advisor that could buy stocks from any country without having to register in local countries. You know, if you want to buy an American stock, a Japanese stock, invest through wealth management, but also robo-advisory. And I remember he struggled to raise funds despite the fact that it was something that Europe needed. He was in Switzerland. You needed that at the time. There wasn't available. There's no Robinhood and all that kind of stuff. It was a brilliant idea, but he didn't manage to raise funds. And to me, it really made me sad. You know, I was sad because he was so enthusiastic about it and he was so happy and tried so hard. And then the whole SwissBorg idea came in. And that's where it connects with Think and Grow Rich, right? Think and Grow Rich. I said, okay, you know, I really want my little brother to achieve something. I don't have any dreams. I don't have a vision, unfortunately, but I want at least my little brother to have a great story and be happy in his life. So I put that as one of my goals. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, which I'll show. It was back in 2016. It was in my 2016 agenda and diary. And I wrote that I want to be able to bring $3 million to my brother so he can start a business or be able to do something, achieve his dream. I would just sit down and I would get into this trance and see myself, you know, going through hurdles and actually see myself giving this amount of money to my brother and him hugging me and just giving me a great smile, feeling him, seeing him and hearing him. And I just went through that visualization process. And then one day my brother told me about SwissBorg. He said, hey, Alex, he called me. It was crazy, man. He called me and literally he was like, hey, Alex, financial markets are about to change. the stock market, all securities are going to become tokens and coins, and he's going to call this the token economy, or it's going to be called the token economy. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Coins and tokens taking over stocks and securities and finance? I didn't understand a single word, but it was Ethereum that really got him excited. Like, it wasn't Bitcoin, it was Ethereum, because he wanted something that could revamp, reinvent financial services and really create Finance 2.0. By the way, guys, this shisha is amazing. Really, really good. People know how to make proper shisha here. And long story short, we do the SwissBorg CEO, and I was in Japan. You know, $20 million was raised in Japan. I was the only SwissBorg member there, and so many weird things happened. The law of attraction was so weird. Like, I bumped into people, literally like in movies, where the business cards would fall on the Yamanote-sen, the main railway in Japan, and realized that person was in crypto and blockchain too. And so many weird things, freaky things happened to me by coincidence. And I remember one day where I sent a message to Marco, who is our CRO, and said, by the way, on my specific account, how much was raised for the SwissBorg ICO from my brother, who's the CEO and co-founder? And he messaged me on Slack and said it was $2,970,000 US. I had wrote it in my diary that I would give my brother $3 million. Now, how crazy is that? And not even that, even Cryptonites. I visualized every single day when I was thinking about Cryptonites that I'm going to become friends. I'm going to interview Aave on Tech, Carl the Moon, some of the crazy YouTubers that we had on the show. I saw it. I saw myself shaking their hands. And all of this just happened. And there's so many other crazy things that happened. But if there's a single recommendation, and this has happened to so many successful people that I met in my life, is check out the book, guys, Think and Grow Rich. It sounds crazy, as you know, we're in a science or evidence-backed society. And I know you cannot measure, science cannot show energies, cannot show auras, cannot prove law of attraction. But I do believe that one day, as we move towards a more complicated form of science, we will be able to see these ways. We will be able to see these energies and show that this is not just one of those cheesy success or self-help books. It actually really, really happened, not just for me, but to all of the successful people that I met. So I think really that was one of the happiest moments in my life. Since we were talking about really sad stuff earlier, it was just very, very special.
My mom is an artist, and I still picture her like picking up these heavy paintings and having to move them around, where NFT, you just have it in your pocket, right? It's like when you have to move it.
You trust the people who crash your economy every single time and lose all your money with all the crises. But instead, us with DeFi, you can trust the protocol. Code is law. Do not trust a man, trust code. But on top of that, it's a peer-to-peer. That's what it was created for, right? Bitcoin created a peer-to-peer transaction system, electronic cash or form of cash. The transparency is always there. You can check the chain whenever you want. And on top of that, by creating all this, it's the true representation of financial freedom because it's accessible to all. So take that, Sai.
All right, so transitioning into Bitcoin and crypto assets, I think the most valuable lessons I've learned, and by the way, this is thanks to the amazing SwissBorg team and the really brilliant minds that have taught me so much throughout this experience from 2016 to now, is that I'm definitely more of a fundamentalist than a technical analyst guy. So I rely on fundamentals 100%. And I think the most critical point is really to understand how to diversify one's portfolio. And without a doubt, number one is to have a position in Bitcoin. Without doubt, Bitcoin is the mother of all crypto assets and really is something that everyone should have in their portfolio. I mean, this is going to be the global currency. It's the borderless currency that Andreas talks about. It's proven itself, but there is one limitation, is the fact that Bitcoin is only driven by supply and demand is the reason why I like to explore utility tokens. And I really think that other than Bitcoin, if you have 20 to 40% of your portfolio allocated in Bitcoin in terms of asset classes, that's fine. There's one more thing that's really important that I've learned is to always have a percentage in stablecoins and have those stablecoins work for yourself through yielding platforms. I mean, yield nowadays is really where you can earn passive income. And allocate maybe anywhere from 20% of all your portfolio in stablecoins or fiat if you prefer to go towards Swiss francs and some of the currencies that are stronger than the US dollar, but have at least 20% ready there because it's an extremely volatile market and it is a bit more stable, of course, than crypto assets, a lot more stable in certain. I would increase my portfolio in stable coins depending on whether we're in a bearish or bullish market. So whenever people tend to be a bit more greedy and we're really pumping, I like to increase my portfolio in stable coins and fiat all the way up to 40%. And then when there's a drop and we're going to a bearish market, I may decrease my fiat position to 20% and buy everything during the dips or during the correction. So anywhere from 20 to 40% for fiat or stable coins, 30 to 40% in Bitcoin, and then 30 to 40% in utility tokens. That's really what I find is the biggest life lesson that I've learned on how to manage my wealth. And I will continue to be using these life lessons to the end of my life. And then when it comes to the when, we talked about all the WH questions besides the when. And TA to me is nothing else but the when. It's just timing your investments. And one thing to help me time the dips is a lesson that I've learned through Carl the Moon, which is related to the Fibonacci retracement levels. And that is one of the most amazing tools when you have a token go to its all-time high. And especially the faster things peak, the faster and the lower they fall, right? So I like to use Fibonacci retracement levels to time my purchases, to really time the dips, to time the corrections so that I can accumulate on these utility tokens or on Bitcoin, which is absolutely critical, and never completely sell your position. Always time a percentage. And that's really all I really need to know, right? And then just rebalance my portfolio according to the utility tokens that I feel have lots of traction. And that's how I'm going to pursue my wealth management life to the day I pass. That's really all I need to know. All right, well, I guess, we can just end it there. And like I said earlier, I never wanted to consider myself as someone successful or anything like that, but I do want to consider myself as someone who is very happy in life. And if that's success, then why not? And if you guys just manage to learn one single thing, then that makes me even happier. So really appreciate all the support that you guys give to this channel. And I really hope that we can continue to provide more content for you. And if you like this show as well, please let me know, message me, and I'll try to do more. Even though it's not really my thing, I'm very happy to do this for the community. So thank you so much, guys, and hope to see you every week on Cryptonites, premiering at a PC near you, 8 o'clock GMT. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.